I feel the liquor holding on to my breath, playing back every word that I said. I'm sitting in the dark, reminiscing on the two of us. I didn't think you'd leave, baby, I guess I was just thinking that wasn't my best. We had everything, it was gone before the summer started. Got the memory of a love, filling my lonely nights. Still think about you from time to time. I'm not asking you to come over, just wanna hit your line, baby, one more time. So tomorrow in the morning, can I call you when the sun comes up? Just to hear the way you say my name, it reminds me of what it was.
顔ですね。
Stay, I couldn't wait. I thought that you should know that I would have. Can hang around, can ask your name. Now I'm thinking maybe I should have. If I hadn't turned to leave, would you have come to sit with me? Of the feeling of your eyes on me, like something from a fantasy. Did you feel it from across the room? Did you feel a little enchanted too? Did I miss something more with you? Did you think of chasing after me like something from a movie scene? Never knowing what could have been. Now we'll never know. Back when you saw me smile, I swear my heart was beating through my chest. Should've never left, should've stayed a while. Maybe then I wouldn't be asking. If I hadn't turned to leave, would you have come to sit with me? Of the feeling of your eyes on me, like something from a fantasy. Did you feel it from across the room? Did you feel a little enchanted too? Did I miss something more with you? Did you think of chasing after me like something from a movie scene? Never knowing what could have been, but now we'll never know. Glances from across the room. Oh, I know that you could feel it too. Rolling through your head when I left. All I could think was, what if you felt it from across the room? You felt a little enchanted too. Did I miss something more with you? Did you think of chasing after me like something from a movie scene? Never knowing what could have.
でもそうじゃないよ、商売でそんなもんじゃないですよ。商売と学校の生徒とは違うよ。
ああ、そうなんです土砂災害が
じゃあ、いわゆるちょっと養生までやりたいんで、それをだからもうまた話長いですよ。
長かったです。僕は出てこいと聞いたんですよ。お前が終わりですよ。
ダメです。でもね、立場があるので言わない。ダメです。調べますよって言ったら、もう立場で出たらもういいです。いや、さ、やめてください。これは僕にはさ、もう大丈夫です。
sing. I catch my breath, escape the pain. Why does it always end this way? I'm falling,
これでいいです
and
ね。
I can't help
持ってください。